Right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Showverse. I'm Noah Pfister, and today I have a very special guest with me. I have the writer and director of the hit and impeccably made indie film To Kill a Wolf, written and directed by none other than Kelsey Taylor. Welcome, Kelsey.
Thanks for having me, Noah. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, I am so glad to have you here. Now, To Kill a Wolf is essentially a sort of modern reimagining of the tale of Little Red Riding Hood. And it deals with a lone woodsman who finds a lone woman alone in the woods, and through their shared grief, tragedy, trauma, and isolation, form a bond as I don't want to say mystery, but the story of their lives kind of unfold. So, first off, love the movie. I really did. It was a very unique take on the story in ways that I honestly wasn't expecting. When I heard the log line, I was expecting something more like a direct one-to-one, but it took a lot more of the bare essentials of the story and the sort of tone and feel, and then I guess built upon it. So, what I would like to know first and foremost is where did that inspiration to essentially tell your own version of this Little Red Riding Hood story come from?
Well, I mean, we did. I'm already going back to what you were saying off the record, but subverting expectations is something that I absolutely love. And I grew up on adaptations. Like I loved Ella Enchanted and Confessions of an Ugly Stepsister, like the adaptations that would focus on a different character from fairy tales. And so I think in that sense, I've always wanted to retell fairy tales, and I have a number of other ones that I'd love to dig into at some point. But what came first is hard to say. I think just wandering through the woods, you start to wonder like what kind of fairy tale would take place here. Little Red Riding Hood is a natural one, especially for me. I'm a hiker. There's a lot of following the path, thinking about the path. Um, and so the two things that have not changed from the beginning, like the inception of this idea, was Little Red Riding Hood told through this lens of sexual grooming. Because I think when we think about the things that are facing young women today, like that is a natural thing that comes up. It's a story that we don't like to talk about that we probably should talk about. It truly is a fairy tale for our time.
Which, by the way, for those who do not know, it does follow the girl played almost heart-wrenchingly by Madison Brown, who, you know, uh, don't want to give spoilers away, but
No,
you watch her performance and it's like, oh, there's a knife in my chest. How'd that get there? But what I really did love was Madison's chemistry with Ivan, who plays the woodsman. And I would like to know, was there like, did you guys rehearse, their scenes together, or was it just like, you sat down with them, told them their characters, and then you just hit roll camera and watch the magic unfold? What was the prep like?
so this is crazy to me, like that this is filmmaking. But for the budget of this film, like, we didn't have rehearsal time, unfortunately. Like the actors truly came in a couple days before, and we went right into it. And we shot those scenes in the cabin. I think the first scene we shot with them together was them meeting at the table. So it really was from 0 to 100, and there wasn't even that much discussion beforehand between us. Um, and like in that sense, I can't take credit for a whole lot of the performances. I see myself as a supporter of the actors, but I'm very much about giving them the freedom. Like if you know that someone is going to be able to pull off the kind of storytelling, the kind of depth that we're looking for here, then you put your trust in them and you say go. And then I'm here to make suggestions and to refine and help them do their best work. But I'm their supporter. And both these actors was so clear, like they understood the characters, and there wasn't a whole lot of talking that needed to happen.
That is
Fire.
absolutely insane to hear because you watch the movie and every aspect of their performances and even your, beautifully written dialogue seems so precise and calculated. So the fact that it was just a matter of, okay, guys, this is the scene, let's go. Like we don't have time to rehearse. And then it just executed so beautifully. It one speaks to their testament as actors, the testament of your writing and the testament of your direction. But one thing that I've seen a lot of reviewers as well as, critics have complemented on your film are two huge aspects, which is the location, which you shot predominantly in Oregon, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Um, so one, the location, and two, your cinematography, which was done beautifully by Adam Lee. So, this is kind of a two question for one sort of deal, which is, um, what was it like for the setup for your cinematography and how you got it to look the way you did, as well as scouting for your locations in Oregon? Because for anyone that has worked on any sort of indie project knows that scouting for real locations rather than building sets can be a truly massive undertaking.
Yes, there's a big answer to this big question. Adam is amazing. We've worked together for a very, very long time, and for both of us, aesthetics are really important. We love building worlds, and if you're going to build a world, you have to be very particular about the visuals. And if you don't have a lot of money, you have to be really particular because your locations are doing so much of the heavy lifting. Being there at the right time of day is doing a lot of heavy lifting. So for this one, we had shot a teaser back in 2019. We shot that on the East Coast in the upstate region. And the woods, it's a beautiful teaser, but the woods just weren't quite big enough. And I think we needed that intensity of this is a survival movie, at least a section of it is. And so we wanted to make sure that that woods felt like it could swallow this girl whole and that there was a sense of danger. And so we ended up scouting the West Coast. I'm from Washington. I really wanted to shoot in Washington, but ultimately, for a lot of production reasons, it made sense to go to Oregon. We were about 45 minutes from the Portland airport at our locations, and you can't beat that if you're making a low budget movie. To feel like you're that in the woods, but also be able to get access to a major airport like that.
And since you're right by the airport, was there any problems with sound when it came to planes? Because even being that close by, you can't. Anyone that's worked with sound and in that sort of area knows that planes can make or break an entire take.
Yeah, totally. Luckily, we were kind of out of the flight path, so planes weren't the issue, but we did shoot right off a highway. And our lovely sound guy, we had a lot of sad conversations. Where I'm like, sorry, Zach, it is what it is. Like this is the best location we can do. It's free. We kind of have to be here. And he was a champ. He would do everything he could to make the sound the best that it could be. And the sound sounds great. He did an awesome job.
No, 100%. And one thing I would love to attest with the cinematography was there's this overwhelming sense of foreboding isolation because for those of you that have watched the film, there the one of the big themes is a sense of isolation, both in the literal sense and the figurative sense. Now, how long did it take you to write this story? Because as I mentioned previously, your dialogue and your sense of story structure, which is a bit non-linear, which I'll get to that in a bit. But how long? You said you shot a test for this back in 2019, so I'm guessing this has been a long time coming. But in terms of the actual writing and outlining of the story, I know we talked about inspiration, but how long did it take you to actually craft this screenplay? Because as I know, I can't keep praising it enough. Everything seems so deliberate, both with the dialogue, the themes, and even the structure within itself. How long did it take?
Well, maybe this feels antithetical when everything feels so purposeful, but we started a draft of this in 2017, and I churned out a very, very quick draft. Almost nothing from that draft is in this final version of the film at all. It's evolved so much. I keep saying that original draft, Little Red Riding Hood kills the woodsman. It was a different movie. It again, like there was still grooming, there was still Little Red Riding Hood, but everything else has changed essentially. This iteration of the film that you see now was probably 2022. I started a new draft, but that was like draft 18. It has seen many, many iterations at this point. And I'm glad. I'm glad that it took this long. I'm glad that ultimately draft 18 or whatever we're on is what made the cut because it's better for it. It's a more nuanced version of the story.
That I couldn't agree with more, because even then, when those bits of like character moments, like I said, I don't want to get into spoilers. This is a movie that I basically watched half the trailer before I'm like, okay, I got to go into this thing blind. This is a movie that you should go in blind to because it does take turns that I seriously wasn't expecting. And that's where I kind of want to, go into the sort of non-linear structure of it all, because it is broken up into four separate chapters, with the second chapter actually taking place before the first. Now, I know it's a ridiculous question to even ask. Why would you make this creative decision? Because usually it just boils down to, well, because I want to, because I thought it's cool. It's
Um,
like, sorry. Yes, no, like, no, go. What made that decision?
I mean, let me say, okay, I mean, some spoilers, but I hate flashbacks. I am a filmmaker who's like, you don't need flashbacks. Generally speaking, like, just don't do it. But I'm also a filmmaker who loves to understand why people got to where they are. So, like, there are good flashbacks, there are bad flashbacks. I'll let you decide what ours is like. But it was a bold choice to do it that way. And previous versions of the script were much more linear. They followed our hero, Danny, just from the start of her journey to the end. So we meet her in her situation, she leaves, she meets the woodsman, total linear. But in thinking more about it, we're like, it should be a mystery. You don't want to understand exactly where this person's coming from. And so in disguising it and burying the lead of it more, that's how we ended up with the interesting structure that we have. And it was never intended to be an extensive sequence, but it turned into that. And we played a lot with like peppering in the flashbacks throughout, but I personally think it works. For some it may not, but I don't mind a film that takes a gamble on interesting structure.
No, and you talk about, not liking flashbacks. And, I do see that interpretation of it all because, flashbacks are literally just like 1 or 2 minutes, and then it's like, it kind of breaks up the pacing a little bit. But, it's an entire chapter. It's just shy of about 15, 20 minutes of the story is taking place within Danny's aunt's house. And, well, yeah. So, it is understandable to not like the flashback sequence, but I do like how you're still able to stay true to your own, sense of filmmaking, because it is not by any sense a flashback. It is essentially just a different part of the story told from a new lens.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine what the post-production process must have been like for this. Like, when exactly did you guys shoot this, and and how long did post-production take?
So we shot in 2023, the spring of 2023. I think we wrapped around April or May, right before the writer's strikes. Um,
Oof.
so then we went right into post production. I love to edit. I feel like editing is where I learn all the mistakes that I made. And so Adam, who's our cinematographer, and I, we did it together the first pass of the edit, and then we turned it over because you probably shouldn't edit your own films, at least all the way through to the end. At least that's what people say. And I know for myself, I kind of lose interest a little bit, in that once it's been put together, I'm like, okay, I think it'll work. It just needs to be massaged and figured out. And so we turned it over to my brother, who's an editor. And I love him editing because I can be brutally honest with him about what's working and what's not working. And he is super talented because he always finds things in the footage that I didn't even know was there. Or he finds ways of repurposing things. I'm like, I didn't think that would work, but it does. And so while not a ton of the movie is different from the script, like it is pretty much what the script is. There's a few scenes where he was able to change the entire meaning of a scene. For example, the hunter comes upstairs to get Danny and says, like, let's go. And she's like, no. And he says, we gotta go. And then they go. That scene used to end with them not going. They stayed, and they stayed at the cabin for another day, and there was a whole nother sequence of them doing things. And he just changed that entire meaning of that scene. And it works so much better that way. Um, but that's why you do have another set of eyes who help you see the things that you can change that you thought you couldn't.
No, and that of course brings into the whole tangent of, film being a collaborative process. And as much as we praise, Nolan is praised for his work, there's Tarantino's, and you have your Bigelows and your Jennifer Kents, but every single one of these filmmakers have always gone on record saying that it's always a collaborative process. And considering, like I worked on a short film in high school with my sister, and it's always good to have somebody you not only trust, but who is able to sit down with you and just like shred you to pieces in order for you to understand is always going to be the best sort of collaboration because it's, of course, that third eye, sorry, that third set of eyes that you would never normally get. Now, um, I actually wanted to go back a little bit, just briefly, because this is more of a question that I'd like to know, and it goes back to the location. There is a scene set within the woods where Danny breaches I guess, breaches the forest, and there is a clear cut of trees just like out it's seemingly in the middle of nowhere. And this isn't a spoiler, I know, but I gotta know, where did you find that location? Or like, because I know what the meaning of the scene is. I know what it means. But where did you find it? Because it just seems so brutal in its presentation. It's like, I mean, I know you didn't have the money to clear cut, but did you guys send a location out and just like location scout? Like, we need to find a clear cut location. Please find it.
Like, did someone put you up to this? Because that is one of the only locations that we stole. Because we couldn't get anyone to give us access to a clear cut. And so we just had done a bunch of driving around the area because that area is crazy logged. But we wanted something that was super accessible because we wanted her to be cold and wet, but we needed to get her out of that pretty quickly. So we were just driving around and we found this place a couple weeks before we started shooting. And when we scouted, it was beautiful, sunny. You could see Mount Hood there. And then when we showed up on the day of shooting, it was covered in snow, moody. Um, but yeah, we stole it because it was too good to pass up on. It was a very quick like run in. Okay, we get 2 takes. All right, get out. And we lost a very expensive battery there that I'm still a little bitter about, but it was worth it.
Hey, going a little bit, hey, one, going a little bit of gorilla never hurt nobody. So that, like, to hear you go, okay, full transparency. We just straight up went, shot, and left. We had no permission. Like that, one, there's always a little bit of risk in filmmaking, and that warms my heart to hear.
What's the
Now,
Werner Herzog that says like if you're not willing to get arrested for your or go to jail for your film, like you shouldn't be making films. And I always think about that.
film is like a dangerous canvas. You
There it is.
must be willing to put your own blood on the screen so that they know the pain of suffer. That's my Werner Herzog impression, but he is 100% correct. Now,
Yes.
I do want to wrap things up a little bit because I know you are a very busy gal with a lot of very important and a lot of creative things to do. But that's kind of where I actually want to touch upon a little bit. Every filmmaker is, always focused on the first project, and then once that's done, it's like the drive to create grows, and eventually that need, that want to create, it starts getting more and more and more high. So I do wonder, and this is once again another very large question, kind of summed up. But one, do you have any upcoming projects that, maybe we, the viewer, should, keep on our radar so we can see another Kelsey Taylor film? And on top of that, this kind of leads into another question, which is if you were given, a blank check, what would you want to make without giving too many details away?
Oh, I mean, I have the pinnacle films that I want to make very badly, but those are things that I think are so far down the line that I need that blank check. And to get the blank check, like you need to have built your portfolio. But I have a Loch Ness Monster movie I would love to make. Why is that? Why are there not more Loch Ness Monster movies? But it would be like a fantasy shape-shifting thing. So that would be the pinnacle. That's what I want. That's my blank check. But in the meantime, while I wait for that blank check to come in, I do have other things. I have another coming of age drama that I really, really love, and it's very personal, dark story that I really would love to do that one. But I think after making this one, I've learned a lot about the business side of film, and I think that one's going to be a big struggle to make. So I think without the right team behind that one, it might just be on the back burner. And then, of course, I'm always trying to dabble in the horror genre, but every time I do that, I end up writing a drama instead. So we'll see, we'll see. And then I'm loosely attached to a sci-fi film also. So keep your eyes and your ears open. I don't know what I'm going to be doing, but it'll be something, and hopefully it will be soon because I don't want to make another 10 years to make a film.
I mean, nobody does. And look, I understand that, a coming of age story can sometimes be hard to make, especially when it's from a certain lens, so to speak. But one of the great things about film is that I think every lens is worth exploring. even if like what was it? Simon Pegg said that, we focus so much on mindless entertainment that we forget that some films are supposed to make us feel uncomfortable deliberately. And I do think with a film like this, because there are definitely a couple scenes that are deliberately meant to make you uncomfortable. And and what is one thing I really did like is that it also focuses on the trauma of, the woodsman as well as Danny, because the wolf in this story is not just something that is a very literal thing. It is, it's a monster that eats them up from the inside. And I do rare, and as much as I love Danny's dissection of what her wolf is, the woodsman's wolf is certainly one that I think, a lot of people can relate to in a very, very understandable way. And your ability to capture isolation and trauma and even grief through multiple lenses, because, Danny's and the woodsman's trauma aren't the same, but you still were able to handle them with nuance and delicacy that I believe shows a true sign of a great filmmaker. So, from me, I look forward to seeing what you make in the future, because if To Kill a Wolf is literally anything to go by, it's that you have a real knack for telling very nuanced and very detailed character studies that I believe are worth not only the price of an admission ticket, but worth multiple viewings, because they are great dissections that bring about very good conversations. And with that, I will rest my time and I will rest yours. I will once again love to say thank you so much for coming on board Showverse today and just giving us your time. And like I said, I'm a fangirl. I loved To Kill a Wolf. I wish I could just be a shill and be like, yeah, go see To Kill a Wolf. It's great. No, it is worthy of being seen on any big screen, which, while I have you for another, let's just say 2 minutes, where can we see it? Where, without, a screener link or whatever, where and when can we see To Kill a Wolf?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Noah. And this is amazing. I'm so glad the film resonated with you. That means a lot. Like all the hard work pays off when someone says it resonated with me. I want to see it again. And you can see it. It's coming to select theaters, which is really, really cool in August. So August 1, we open in New York. We'll be in LA, the Pacific Northwest. It's a very select number of theaters. So check out our website, tokillawolf.com. And you can find any of those Regal theaters or any of the art houses that we'll be at. And hopefully we'll continue to add screens. I do think seeing it on the big screen is the best way to see it. But it will be streaming at some point. I can't tell you exactly when and where. We're still working all those details out. But I'm excited to see the film go out into the world. It's terrifying, but exciting.
Very much so. And to those of you watching, links to killawolf.com, as well as links to other aspects of the film, will be in the link in the description below. But otherwise, I'm Noah Pfister with Showverse, and thank you very much for being with us today, Kelsey. I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed. Thanks so much for watching.
You can check out our website for all the content we produce.
Clicking all those YouTube buttons makes it so you see more content from myself and the other amazing creators at Kai's Corner Productions. All donations help us produce more stuff like that for you.
See you guys in the next one. Peace.